Okay, I think we can begin. So hello everyone, and there have been exciting round of talks since morning, and I hope you have enjoyed them, and then you also had like a nice meal during the lunch break. Mostly I have given talks on more technical topics like cloud and machine learning, and today I'm gonna talk about diversity, inclusion, and unconscious bias around us. It's a bit less technical, but also very essential and important, and somebody has to address it. But before jumping on into my talk, I would like to introduce myself and about my background. I am Zahin, and I work as a software engineer at Ericsson, coming all the way from Stockholm, Sweden. I earned a dual degree in cloud computing and services, and also innovation and entrepreneurship, and from Technical University of Berlin and KTS Royal Institute of Technology. I've been working in the industry for like 7 years. I work in different areas, in different domains, from web development, in network security and automation, in cloud and machine learning, and now I'm working towards bringing 5G to the world. So here's the agenda for my talk. So I will start with some definition of diversity and inclusion. What is bias, and how can we reduce unconscious bias around us? And what are the benefits of diversity and inclusion in our workspaces, and why it is important for startups and enterprises. How to design inclusive products, and if we don't, then what are the costs and consequences of the non-inclusive designs. And then I will continue with some examples of eventually inclusive products, and in the end, I will share some takeaways and references. So let's begin. What is diversity? Diversity is a range of human differences that exist, including but not limited to race, gender, ethnicity, age, your social norms, political and religious beliefs. And in other words, diversity incorporates all the elements that make individuals unique and distinguished from one another. And what is inclusion? It is a work environment, where all the individuals are treated fairly, with justice, with respect, and they are basically have access to all the opportunities and the resources equally. Moreover, inclusion is the empowerment where the dignity of all the people are recognized and acknowledged. It also promotes a sense of belonging where all the individuals, in the workspace are welcomed. If the people and employees at a company, they feel connected and are respected well, and eventually they're going to start contributing more towards the progress and the better productive growth of the company. So if we compare diversity and inclusion, so what is it? So diversity is a fact, and inclusion is basically the action or the behavior. So if I put this into context, so to the left, you could see that diversity is, a piece of a puzzle. You have several pieces and blocks that come in different sizes, color, and shapes. And if we put them all together, they're going to form a big community, and they're going to be connected. So if we compare diversity and inclusion, so it is not diversity itself has to be acknowledged and recognized. But without the action, it is of no use. It is of no benefit. So we have to value diversity and move towards and embrace inclusion. There's also a very famous quote by the author, Mark Twain, that the human race has a very effective weapon, and that is laughter. So we have to spread and celebrate the joy with others so they feel more welcomed. So when we talk about inclusion and diversity, biases come along with it. What's a bias? It is a judgment that is made in favor or against a person, a group, or a thing. And an unconscious bias is a judgment made without being aware that we are doing so. Both influence how we interact with the people, how we engage with them, and both can impact our organizations. So these biases, they are more prevalent when we are working under time pressure, meeting deadlines, or while doing multitasking. There's also good research about a comparison. And like 67% of the British, they admitted that they felt uncomfortable while talking to a disabled person. And also, 80% of the employees, they admitted that they made decisions based on their regional accents. So the biases are already there, but we have to do something about it. So how to reduce unconscious bias? So the first one is that we have to recognize our own personal biases. We have to challenge our decision making and then identify the situations where we might have thought maybe we might have been biased to somebody in our workspaces. And second point is that we have to create some collaborative projects and programs so the people, they can interact with each other and engage. And also we should try to make them learn about the different diversity groups and also increase the contact with the relevant group where we feel maybe we might have been biased towards them. And fourthly, we also have to find the evidence against all the stereotypes and then counter them, which is most important. And one important thing is that we also have to empathize with the feelings and opinions of the others, and we value their viewpoints. So if we have the biases around, and let's say we overcome these biases, then what's the outcome of the unbiased decisions? There's a company called Gap Jumper, and they took the idea of blind auditions and put them into corporate world. And here are the results from that. That 65% of the minority applicants, they were selected for interviews as compared to the conventional resume screening. Interestingly, 125% more women were selected for interviews as compared to the normal screening. And one also interesting research is that there are more people, more guys named John in men leading companies than women in men leading companies, which is really surprising and ironic. So why diversity is important to startups for bigger companies and enterprises? So let's have a look at that. So by combining different cultures and experiences, it broadens the understanding and the consumer needs, which basically leads to more sales. And employees, they feel more trusted when their differences are accepted, and then they can do their job more honestly. And it will also allow them, it allow to attract the talent that we need to sustain and grow our businesses. Furthermore, equality and diversity, it encourages the individual contribution to the responsibility, and so the employees, they feel more, they're going to do the work with more dedication and passion. So diversity could also be considered as a strategy to fill the gaps in your businesses and to gain some competitive advantage. And this can lead to more strategic position in the business area and also more productive growth. By gaps, I mean more talented and experienced employees. So what are the benefits of diversity and inclusion in our workspaces? So these are some of the facts and stats. So diversity brings a lot of changes. In dynamic and diverse employees, they can, it is proven that they are more creative, they bring more ideas, they come up with new solutions. There's good research done by McKinsey that ethnically diverse companies are like 33% more likely to yield high revenue, while the gender diverse companies, they are like 21% more probable in yielding high revenue. And there's also another interesting research done by Harvard Business that diverse companies, they are like 70% more likely to yield, to capture a new market, which is really good for the company's strategic points and their strategy. So we can see there's like a huge difference. And moreover, when employees, they perceive their organizations as committed to diversity and inclusion, they're also more likely to rank their employer as high performing and also at a very good scale. So why inclusion is also important in leadership? So here are the points which the leaders of our generation should keep in mind. So the leaders should listen before speaking or leading. By this, I mean you should listen to your employees, listen to your teammates, and listen to the concerns which they have in regard to how they feel and in the company and how they are respected. So they should also try to create a safe environment for open and respectful discussions. So they feel more welcomed. And then they should also encourage employees to speak up. You might think maybe this point is very similar or redundant to the first one, but there might be some employees, they are shy, they are conservative, might not directly come to you. So we have to create such an environment that they feel relaxed, they feel very comfortable in coming to you and then speaking about their problems, about their concerns, how they feel in the workplace. Then also the leader should allow an open discussion to value the diversity and diversity of thought in achieving not only the organization's goals, but also the employees' goals, which is very important in our current era. And most importantly, we should stay conscious of our own biases. So the leaders, they don't want to put their own job in jeopardy just because, they become the target of a biased decision or comment they made. So since I work at Ericsson, so I must mention that why diversity and inclusion, what it means to Ericsson. So it is our diversity and inclusion that brings us closer together. It provides a catalyst for the innovation and success and helps us to make a difference in the network society. We are also committed to diversity and inclusion as we enable the network society where everything that benefits from the connection will have one. So it is clear that the main goal and agenda is to build a network society to connect the world. So since we have talked about inclusion, so we should also talk about how to build and design inclusive products. So the first phase is like getting buy-in. You meet your employees, you meet your stakeholders, you present your idea, and then you get the feedback and input from them and do the validation. And once you have done that, the second phase is you identify the customers and the users and their needs. So we don't want to end up in a situation where we build something and then it is not being used by our end users. It is very important. And then the third phase is that we match our businesses to our users. This is basically you build a product or a platform that is going to be used by your user or client. A simple example would be if you want to choose a mobile or a desktop platform. So once we have settled all these phases and the steps in the flow, so finally we build the product, we take it to the market, and then we also get the feedback from the end user. And since if you launch the product the very first time, there might be some tweaks required for, and then you do the tweaks, and then you continue with the cycle. This is also the same strategy which was actually mentioned in one of the talks by Google product developer, product manager. So if we don't design inclusive products, then what are the consequences or the cost of non-inclusive design? Definitely, it's going to damage your brand, your business, and due to your bad public relations and also customers' perception. And then eventually, the support cost is going to be huge and high. And if there's something that is non-inclusive, definitely there might be, you have to deal with some lawsuits. And believe me, they are really, really expensive. And then if the product doesn't, is not liked by the end users, they're going to return their product, and then you're going to spend a lot of time and money on redoing the work, reworking on that, and then building it again. And then it will cost a lot. So we should keep all these points in mind. So here are some of the examples where the initial product were not inclusive, and then later, because of some consequent situations, they had to make the product more inclusive. So the airbags, they were first launched in 1970, and the men in the experiment room, they were mostly average-sized men. So when they did the benchmarking, so what happened, that in the starting months, there were like accidents, and a lot of women and children died. Because the initial design was not accustomed to the size and shape of the women. The child, still at this stage, is not considered, to put him or her on the child seat because they are still not accustomed. It is mentioned, like in a research, that at least the child height should be around like 140 centimeter if it has, if you have to put him or her on the, the seat which has an airbag. But later they reworked on it and then designed an airbag, which basically took into account the shape, the size, and the height of the driver and the passenger. And now there are like less accidents, less people dying. And the thing is, if something that is more life-threatening, you have to, it will fire back. We have to, maybe face a lot of lawsuits, and it's gonna cost a lot. So the second example is the NASA space mission. Probably you might have heard about this. This happened in March. And that the NASA, they launched a mission called the All-Women Spacewalk. But during the days of the launch, they realized that the spacesuits which they have built are not women accustomed. And then there was huge fireback on the social media, on Reddit, on every platform. Because NASA, having that image and their strategies, it is a big loss for them. And now they are working, in building a spacesuit which is more accustomed to women, size and shape. And so probably soon they're gonna go again and with full commitment and dedication to launch this new mission of all-women spacewalk. There were individual women that also traveled in April, in mid of April, but they haven't, successfully launched the whole mission with all women. And the third example I put is, Airbnb. So the people that were using Airbnb and trying to search for apartments, for a place to live, they were initially denied just because the color of their skin. Airbnb did not build this platform that was racially profiling people. The racism was already there. But then they realized, and then now they have been working in trying to overcome these biases by building a more smart platform that can actually neglect or bypass these biases. Okay, now there's another very famous experiment. So a group of 5 creative directors, they got together and they did this experiment called the Great British Diversity Experiment. So what they did was they brought together 150 people from different and various backgrounds to solve a life brief. So basically they wanted to study that how people they interacted and engaged with one another compared to if it was an homogeneous group. So the findings from the research was that more diverse and dynamic groups, they make you feel more creative, and this allows them, to come up with different ideas, and they have different perspectives. They try, they connect the dots in different ways to solve bigger and more complex problems, which is basically better for the organizations in tech and non-tech companies. Okay, I would like to conclude my talk with some very important key takeaways. So the first is that diversity and inclusion, it matters, and they must coexist. The most important thing is that you are curious to keep learning about yourself and the people around you, and you are not afraid of making mistakes, along the way. One more important thing is that you have to speak up if you or someone else, not only you, it's also someone else, you feel that is unsafe or being treated disrespectfully. And the last point, which is also very important, that diversity and inclusion, it cannot create measurable value without strong partnerships with the collaborations with other departments, within your organizations. So the sales, the HR, the dev team, they have to collaborate together in order to overcome all these biases and value inclusion and diversity. So here are some of the references from a talk. If you're eager to learn more, you can just go to it and then read through whole details. And here's my Twitter handler. If you have any comment, any feedback, any input, I would be gladly to accept and comment back. And thank you very much for your attention. So if you have any questions, you can ask, please.
First of all, thank you for your talk. And I have a question. When you have to speak up, maybe if you are feeling bad in a situation, but the people that are making you feel in that way is doing it in an unconscious bias, it's difficult because they think that the problem is you that interpret bad the situation. How you can make this feel more easy to the people to speak up?
Okay, it's a very good question. Probably everybody who have some disability or are people of different colors and gender, and when they are in a group where they are minority, we're going to have the same feeling. So the best way is to you accept that you are different, and then you try to face with more confidence. And then the people who are also in the same minority group, you try to interact with them and come up with a consensus. Okay, let's talk to them. Let's speak that we are not different. We are the same, and that's how you can you overcome your own. Basically, it's your own judgment that makes you feel guilty. That's what we should make more concentration or pay heed to.
Thanks.
Okay, are there any more questions? So we all truly accept that diversity and inclusion is the power of the world? Okay, thank you very much.